my 2019 Lotus Exige 410 Sport. 9 months ago I did my first review on this car, and since then I've done a couple of bits to make it a bit more track worthy because it really wasn't at the time. So it's still got the same 410 horsepower out of a 3.5 litre V6. 0 to 60 in about 3.2 seconds, 420 newton meters of torque, weighs about 1100 kilos. I've not done anything to add too much weight to it, so it should still be about the same, which is really, really light still for a road car, essentially. So bits I've changed are the tyres. I've got AR1s, Nankang AR1s on there now. They're semi-slicks. Had PS4s on it when I first got the car, which frankly for a dry day on track was utterly horrendous. Fine as a wet tyre, but really not good in the dry. They tend to wear out, wear themselves out after about 5 laps, and you're just sliding all over the place on them, so they're not good at all. I've been collecting stickers, which obviously add 50 horsepower to the car. I've then also changed the brake pads. I've got Padgett RS14s on the front, RS29s on the back, and then I've also put some harnesses in there. And the last thing is, or the first thing I actually did was put the new exhaust on, because the standard exhaust is about 126 decibels and you need to be under 87 on most tracks. So I've had an exhaust made for me by the exhaust company in Newbury, who have made this fantastic exhaust which gets me on pretty much any track that I can possibly dream of, which is fabulous, even Bedford. So as you might already know, I did have a McLaren 650S before this. Got to say, this car gets way more attention than that car, which is really, really, really surprising. I did not think that was going to be the case at all, but I tend to get people talking about it all the time. I go into petrol stations, and the other day I had 3 people comment on it between walking from the petrol pump to the petrol station and back again. And then I also had someone recording me leaving, and I never had that in the McLaren. So interesting point. These definitely get more attention than other things that should probably get more attention. You'll see the car has loads of carbon fibre everywhere. We've got the front splitter, the little access panel thing. There's loads of carbon at the back. My plan is to put some carbon side skirts and there's carbon seals on it, and also I'd really like some of these. Also a carbon roof would be quite cool. Lotuses are not known for having massive boots, but the boot space isn't actually too bad. You can fit a helmet and a kind of a small weekend away bag. You cannot get a suitcase in there unless you put the suitcase in the front seat, and then you cannot have a passenger. So you either take your suitcase or your passenger. Now you may notice that I am vertically challenged, so me getting in and out of Lotus isn't actually a problem, and I've got many years of experience doing it. My cameraman, however, is 6'1" and is going to show you how normal people may have a problem with it. So in true Lotus form, we've got a really plain interior. I don't actually think they've changed it too much since the S2 at least. It might even be the S1, but my S2 had pretty much exactly the same interior as this, minus a couple of little cubby holes at the side, which this has got and that didn't. Aircon, which does come with the touring pack normally. Again, had it in my S2 I believe, but I had the S2 touring. You don't get it in every Lotus. Okay, radio, again, better than the S2 one was. We've then got the cruise control on the left stalk, which will give you the limiter and the cruise control, and then you set the speed with the 2 buttons just above that. Then to the right of the steering wheel, we've got the start-stop button, and then to the right of that, we've got the sport and race buttons. So when you start up, it's in normal, and then you just press either of those 2 buttons to switch to the different modes. And then finally, the only real thing to talk about on the dashboard is the aim dash. So this does come with the aim dash. They don't always come with this. Now, I had no clue how to use it. I've only just worked out how to change the time on it. Contrary to my first belief, you can't use it while you're driving along. You have to be stationary to be able to use the dash and change the modes on it. When you're driving, you have your normal kind of rev limiter, speed, all that sort of stuff, and then it's when you're parked up that the fun stuff happens. So To the left of the screen, I have 2 buttons, and then I've also got 2 buttons to the right. Press the top button to the left, and that takes you to the menu where you can change all your preferences and all that sort of stuff. And then you can scroll through, and the favourite bit is Track Manager, which gives you a lap timer. And I have now used it on 2 tracks. It automatically recognises where I am, where the start line on the track is, and works perfectly. So if you are into your track days, this lap timer has saved me about £1,000 on a lap timer that I wanted. So it comes with these lovely carbon backed seats, rest of it in leather and Alcantara, with the lovely little badge here, 410 Sport, just to let you know what you've bought if you ever forget. And then I've also got my boyfriend's old harnesses on here. I mentioned earlier that I've changed to harnesses. I will get some Shroth harnesses probably, but again, I was being cheap and he was getting rid of his harnesses, so they are now mine. And also, just to mention, my nerdiness absolutely loves this gear stick and exposed gear linkage. Right, that's enough chatting. Let's go for a drive. Okay, so negatives of living with an Exige 410. Firstly, definitely not a daily. You do not want to daily this unless you are, well, basically a crazy person, because it kind of doesn't matter how tall or small or young you are. Ultimately, you just have to be a level of crazy to want to daily this car. It's not a car you want to take to the shops. There is no room in it. You can fit, okay, no, that's a lie. I have taken it shopping a few times, and I haven't yet come out of the shop and thought, crap, can't fit all my stuff in. But I have been to Costco and done that, number one. Number two, I don't buy a lot when I go shopping. So, you know, I'm only feeding 2 people. If you're feeding a family of 4 or 5, do not take this car shopping. Believe me, just don't. So as you'll see earlier in the video, I have actually put a quieter exhaust on this car because it wouldn't get on track as standard. It is still obnoxiously loud. I don't even know if you're going to be able to hear this video because the thing is so loud, and I can't make it any quieter. I'm sorry. It is what it is. We're here now. This is life. It's also kind of a pain in the arse with the harnesses. Can't move. I've left them a little bit looser because firstly, I'm not on a racetrack, so I don't need to be stuck to the thing. I'm also not wearing a hands device, so I want to have a little bit of play if I do move forward. You know, people will say, oh yeah, you probably break your neck if you have a crash. Realistically, on the road, I'm probably not going to be crashing fast enough for it to have any difference. And as I say, I've left a little bit of play in it, so that if I did need to jolt forwards, I'm not just literally sat there and my head's going straight on. But the harnesses are a pain. I can't reach anything. I just can't reach anything, essentially. So once I'm in the seat, that's it. Anything that I might want from the, you know, the little cubby hole in the front, or I want to turn the aircon on, you can't. Just have to pull over and do it, basically. Also, the cup holder, which is behind this seat, is in the most inconvenient place that they possibly could have thought to put it. So you get one cup holder, and essentially you can't have the seat all the way back, otherwise you can't get to your drink. There is a good chance that if you have a full coffee in your cup holder, it will end up all over the back of the car. And it's a pretty inconvenient like size as well and shape. It's fine, it's a cup holder. I can't really complain because I do actually use it quite a lot, and if I get coffee all down the back of my seat, not too bothered. I know it's really bad to say. I'm sorry for the people that really keep their cars clean and stuff, but I am just not one of those people. I drive my cars, I don't clean them. But yeah, the cup holder is not exactly the most fit for purpose design. If you try and get a cup holder on the front, you get little ones that clip on the little cubby holder thing. I have got one, but the design doesn't quite work, so it keeps falling off. So put your cup in it, put in your cup holder falls off, coffee all over the front. So yeah, essentially cup holder design's not good. You can either fit a passenger or things in the front. So firstly, you can't really have a passenger that you don't particularly like, because you will be rubbing arms with them. And secondly, so I've got a Supercar Club, we have flags that, you know, have the Supercar Club logo on them and all that sort of stuff that we should be able to take to events, put up and advertise the club. Now, if I have a passenger in this car, obviously this is the car that I take to the Supercar Club stuff until I get another McLaren. This car does not have space for passengers and flags. You also have to be super on the ball when you're driving it at all times. You cannot take your focus away from the road because of the way it handles and how well it's set up. It's very well set up, but on the road, any slight camber, you're going with it. Any kind of stones in the road, you're going to destroy something, or it's going to mainly your bum. Yeah, anything on the road that is not just straight tarmac, the car will not glide over it. Is probably the best way to describe it. All these, you know, these nice, comfy, luxurious, you know, newer cars that have all of the, you know, the sound deadening and and they just glide across bumps and glide across imperfections in the road. This car does not do that. You can feel absolutely everything, and I mean everything, in the road. Tiniest little stone, you know it's there. It does rattle, it makes loads of noise. I'd say it's not particularly comfortable, but actually it's a lot more comfortable than you would think it should be. It is actually alright to do long journeys in. These seats are really, they're not as uncomfortable as you'd think they should be, really. But yeah, you're not in a Porsche, put it that way. Essentially, if you're an adult and you want any form of luxury, and you're not just a massive kid, and you want to drive around, you know, with things that work, and you want to have your Apple CarPlay or your Android Auto, or you know, you don't want a loud drone sitting in your ear constantly while you're driving, do not buy one of these. If you're not particularly limber, don't buy one, because you can't get in and out of it. Getting out is actually harder than getting in, and getting in the passenger seat is even worse. I don't know how people get in the passenger seat of this. It's certainly a knack, okay? So, if you're an adult, do not, I repeat, do not buy an Exige or any Lotus of that sort, unless it's one of the new ones, the Emira. The Evora is a good daily, or that, you know, big SUV thing that they've started making. But if you've got an itch that needs scratching, which is essentially trying to find what is probably the best handling car brand that is under 100 grand, that isn't just scaffolding on wheels, this is it. And you can do this. Yeah. Yep. This is why you buy a Lotus. You do not buy it for luxury or anything other than to do that, right? And then the best thing about it is that you can drive it to a track, do your track day, and drive it home again, because chances are it won't break. It's so reliable. Everyone goes on about, you know, lots of trouble, usually serious. I'm sorry, that is crap now. That is an old saying that is no longer relevant to Lotuses. They're so reliable. I've had 3 now. My S2 Elise, which I had, 145 horsepower, 700 kilos. I dailied that for 7 years. No trouble. One of the most reliable cars I've ever had. I put 80,000 miles on that car over 7 years. I I then had an Evora 400, also very reliable, and then now I've got this. And the only things you have is a bit like having a McLaren. Everyone goes on about how McLarens are unreliable. The main issues you have with them, unless you have a really, really, really bad car, is electrical. It's not really car. It's not going to leave you stranded at the side of the road or anything like that. They're very, very similar in that respect. Steering input is absolutely telepathic. You literally think about where you want it to go and it just takes you there. Honestly, the closest thing I've found to the driving experience that you get in a Lotus is something like a Caterham or an Atom, or essentially scaffolding on wheels. And I know full well that I would rather be in the luxury of my Lotus than getting rained on, not able to take the car out if it rains. And honestly, I got this for 70 grand. I don't know what else I could buy for 70 grand that would give me the driving experience and engagement that this gives me. And that includes a McLaren. I'm sorry, it does. I know this. My 650S was a fantastic car, a fantastic daily and a fantastic track car. Very, very fast. But there is nothing for the money that you can get that gives you the engagement of a Lotus, that doesn't need any change to it. You know, you don't need to change the suspension, you don't need to change any of the setup of the car really. You don't need to do anything to it to make it a good track car and an engaging and just epic drive. My boyfriend actually took it on a track day. It was his first time taking it on track the other day, and he even said he hasn't driven another car that out of the box as a road car is as good as this on track. So there you go. And he races, he knows his stuff. So basically my review is this: it is the best car I've ever owned. I will never get rid of this car. I'd love a McLaren to go alongside it, a 600 LT probably, but I will never ever get rid of this car. I love this car more than I've ever loved a car ever. And yeah, that's it. I don't really know what else to say about it. I don't want to daily it, but as a fun car and a, you know, a twisty road eater and a track car, is spot on. It's just go and buy one. If you're thinking about buying one, go and buy one. I've also never felt like it wasn't fast enough for the road. The McLaren always felt kind of a bit too fast for the road, whereas this doesn't. It feels like it's got enough go to it, but then you're also not going to kill yourself because it's not going to get you that fast. Yeah, I love this car so much. I love it. I can't tell anyone enough how much I love this car. So, fun factor, 10. Obviously a 10. Yeah, that's it. There's no other comments on that one. Practicality, I'm going to go with like probably a 3, which actually is quite good for this. It shouldn't be that high. It should probably be a 1 or 2 if you think about it logically, but actually it's not bad. You can put stuff in the boot, you can put stuff in the front seat. You can't take a passenger and a suitcase. You could take either a suitcase or a passenger, but then that gives you an excuse to leave the passenger at home, so. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on your notifications so you don't miss anything in the future, and I'll see you next week.